about to get hit by an NHL rookie playing his second game ever.
Here comes again. Look at that. See? Almost the same spot.
It was quite the moment, but also one of the very last things Bill McCreary, the 20-year-old rookie in question, would ever do in his NHL career. Today, Bill McCreary is a 64-year-old hockey coach in suburban Detroit. After building his career in the mortgage business, he has a family and sometimes reminisces about his short hockey career and how everything turned out. When it comes to hockey careers, Gretzky undoubtedly had the best. And at the end of it, he had the most goals, assists, and of course, points than any other player that had stepped foot in the big leagues. Still, possibly the most remarkable feat in his career is how he remained injury-free for the entirety of his career. His lack of injuries certainly helped cement him as the undisputed greatest hockey player of all time. Mario Lemieux, regarded as the second best player ever, ended up with cancer in the lymph nodes and a herniated disc in his back. After a while, he had to have trainers lace his skates as the pain was too great to do it himself. Then we have Bobby Orr, regarded as the third best, who only spent a short 10 years in the league due to severe knee injuries. But while Gretzky certainly had some luck, he did not have to depend on it. Some of Gretzky's injury-free career must be credited to Dave Semenko and Marty McSorley, his enforcers. These guys would demolish anyone who dared make a move on the team's star. Gretzky never played without someone watching his back, as even during his first couple of seasons, it was clear that he was of a different caliber. While he was a great player, his anticipation also made sure he avoided severe injuries. And while he wasn't the quickest of players, he knew how to spot a dangerous situation. More importantly, he had the split-second decision-making skills to avoid them. Still, it has to be said that players really did not try to go for him either. He was loved by the fans, and you'd have to have a serious pair to take out the greatest player in the league, not to mention of all time. Still, there was one time when Gretzky, to everyone's surprise, was laid out and changed everything for the pretty anonymous Bill McCreary. At 20 years old, McCreary had just been called up from a minor league affiliate by the Leafs. Even now, everyone who saw the game, and certainly his teammates, remembers it. Barry Melrose, who played for the Leafs, stated, "You saw something you don't see very often. That's Wayne Gretzky getting drilled." But while the tackle was quite the moment, McCreary didn't realize the magnitude of it. Before or after the incident took place, it was only Gretzky's second season as an NHLer, but everyone could tell that he was something very special. He was the best the league had ever seen, and no one had left a scratch on him. His oversight and ability to predict opponents' movement had just been too much to handle. He never put himself in a position to be hit, said longtime NHL defenseman Lee Norwood. The national media had already begun calling him the Great Gretzky. "To me, it wasn't a big deal until after the game," McCreary said. "Some of the guys on the bus gave me a pat and said, 'Nice hit, kid, but you probably shouldn't have done that.'" A Toronto newspaper reporter suggested that Gretzky must have calculated McCreary was heading off on a line change. If he really could see the ice from above, he would know when a rookie was due back on the bench. But McCreary wasn't going for a line change. He was headed right for Gretzky. The two collided and Gretzky got laid out. After looking up at the rafters, Gretzky was reportedly pissed off. Not at McCreary, but at himself for not playing carefully enough. Still, the hit wasn't that dangerous. Hicks said, "When we saw the hit, we knew immediately that it wasn't a dangerous hit. That's why we immediately started kind of laughing and chuckling." McCreary was kept on the bench for the rest of the game, likely to keep him safe from retaliation from the other team. McCreary was an American and a product of the American college system, which made him quite the rare sight in that era. Yet his name was familiar, as his father, Bill Sr., played over 300 regular season games, and his uncle, Keith McCreary, played over 500. Bill McCreary Jr. would only play 12 games in the league, 10 more games after the hit. When explaining the hit now, he said, "Certainly no malicious intent involved," McCreary said. "You're not looking for anybody. You're not trying to make a statement. You're just playing the game." And it happened to be Wayne Gretzky.
Not how you would have done it. You bundle things right, and that saves you up to 10% on your USAA home and auto insurance. Get a quote today.
I love to compete. Give me a challenge, and watch me prove people wrong. I could have given up a million times.
Between the Blues and the Bruins was awesome. Avs and Lightning in 2022 was also a really fun watch. To be honest with you though, this is easily the most excited I've been for a Stanley Cup final since at least Montreal in 2021 or Ovi in 2018. It surpasses both of those for me, and not even because I'm cheering hard for one of the teams. I mean, there's a lot of Flames fans who are hurting right now. They get Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett on one side and the Oilers on the other, and despite Boston Pizza trying their hardest to get everybody to cheer for the lone Canadian team, down to them straight up planting fake green men, white out, and fake dark guy together in Edmonton. Literally the same people from the commercial were in the arena sitting all together. What a coincidence. It's going to be interesting to see how many people in Canada, especially in Vancouver and Calgary, actually end up cheering for the Oilers in this one, because I definitely don't think everyone is, and I'm pretty sure Oiler fans are totally fine with that. They don't care. I'm straight up cheering for a long, entertaining series though. That's what I want. You've got McDavid and Draisaitl in their first ever Cup final. You've got Matthew Tkachuk heading back to Edmonton. It's going to be the first time he plays more than one game a year there since he was a Flame. In a Cup final environment, his reception alone in Edmonton is going to be must-watch TV. What's the over-under on how many times Oiler fans say Turtle Chuck that day, or is that old news? Please give me 7 games of this. And I know some people on TSN and whatnot were complaining that the Cup is being handed out too late in the year. Me personally, I love it. I mean, there's so much downtime, especially in July and August, where you get just nothing from hockey. Not even for content purposes, but just as a fan, I love having meaningful hockey to watch later in June, and then it's less of a gap until the draft comes around and then free agency right after. I understand that people in traditional hockey media might want a bit more of a break than that. I get it, and look, it would be far from the end of the world if the Cup was ended out end of May and the season started earlier. But selfishly, I think it's kind of cool, and look, I know there was different circumstances given what was happening in the world for the Cup to be handed out in July in 2021 and in September in 2020, the bubble. But in a quote-unquote normal year, I honestly don't have a problem with this type of Stanley Cup final schedule. And I mentioned this in yesterday's video, but another thing that really excites me about this series is that it's going to be pretty much a rat-off. You've got Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, and I know Nick Cousins hasn't been playing, but if he gets in, you've got a trifecta right there, and then Corey Perry and Evander Kane on the other side, although I know Kane got hurt yesterday. Look, they're both trying to win a cup. They're not going to be doing rat stuff the whole time, but the game within the game between these two teams is going to make it even more entertaining. The only one missing is Brad Marchand, and then it would just be like a rat overload. Then you've got the big storylines heading into this one. 200 days ago, the Oilers were last place in the whole league, and now they've made it to the final 2. Their season still isn't over. Then you've got the Panthers, who are in their second straight final, trying to win the first cup in their history. How different are they going to be from the 5-gamer against Vegas last year? And then, probably the one that fascinates me the most, every time you get a huge superstar in the final, Crosby, Ovechkin, McKinnon, the question of their legacy always seems to get brought up. How does this cup final affect their legacy? Well, Connor McDavid is constantly getting compared to guys like Crosby and Gretzky. He has since even before he was drafted. Well, after 9 years, many of them long and painful or short and painful, he's finally in a Stanley Cup final. And you look at how he scores that goal yesterday to put the Oilers up 1-0. That was a signature moment, and it was definitely the biggest game of his career up to this point. What does he have up his sleeve in his first ever Stanley Cup final? Because that's going to have a massive effect on his legacy. And a similar thing goes for Tkachuk. I mean, the narrative around lost one, won one is a lot different than lost 2 in a row, even with the big injury that hampered him in last year's final. Also, I can't wait for those Paul Maurice press conferences. We'll be talking about these two teams throughout the week, and probably some other teams mixed in there too. Saturday's going to be something. Let me know your thoughts. Like the video and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. You're awesome.
Insure your passion. Here's how to start a boat quote. Just go to progressive.com/boat. Then get protected by America's #1 boat insurer with basic liability policies as low as $100 per year. Now relax on the water, knowing you're covered.
Sarah, Glenn, thank you, and we'll have all sorts of reaction. We'll be here for a while as the Oilers are in their first Cup final since 2006. There's Carlo Koliakovo, there's Marty Biron, there is Darren Dreger. From the second the Oilers won the McDavid draft lottery in 2015, this felt possible, perhaps even inevitable. But it took 9 long years and an awful lot of pain for it to happen? Put some perspective, Dregs, on this journey to get here.
Yeah, it's all about the history, right? I mean, if you want to start with recent history, you go to the beginning of the season where there was nothing going the way of the Edmonton Oilers, to a point where they had to fire their coach, Jay Woodcroft, early in the month of November. Now you go back to the playoffs, and you go back a couple of years ago where Connor McDavid, the Edmonton Oilers, play the Colorado Avalanche, the Western Conference Final. They just weren't quite ready. Colorado goes on to win the Stanley Cup. There's no shame from Edmonton's perspective. Last year, they lose to the Vegas Golden Knights in round 2.